Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football TITTH number 201. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. I got Emron Khan with me this morning. Happy Sunday, sir. Welcome to week 10. How we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Happy week 10 to you as well. How are you?
Doing good. Trying to recover from Thursday night. It wasn't the best start to week 10. I leaned into the Ravens pretty heavy. I bought them down from... I got the number at 8. I bought them down to 7. The number kept climbing. I think it went as high as 8.5, maybe even 9 points. And got it thrown back in my face. That wasn't great. Got a rebound from a Myles Gaskin start. He must have had every chance in the world to finish on the goal line and couldn't get it done. So I'm hurting in a couple of spots. How about you?
Similar. In a league, I had to trade Darren Waller just because I got just ravaged with injuries and underperforming players. I lost Derrick Henry. Julio Jones hasn't done shit this year, and then he's on IR now. Allen Robinson was my third-round pick. He hasn't done anything. So basically, Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase, and Burrow were carrying me. And with Henry out, I had Waller too, but Waller had been underperforming, so I had to flip him. So Gaskin was one of the players I got. And I was like, he'll get something, and just nada from him on Thursday night. And just the Ravens as a whole with a big disappointment, and it just adds to the parity of this year. You really don't know who's a good team, who's not.
Exactly. We're going to have a couple of weird ones today. We got Ben Roethlisberger out. Looks like Kyler Murray's going to be out again. We got the Bills going up against the Jets. Battle of New York. Are the Jets going to kind of revert back to what we thought they were? Is Mike White going to become Magic Mike again? Can the Bills cover the huge spread? So. Yeah, we got some crazy ones set up for today. Before we start getting into it here, let's go over our best props on the day. I have J.D. McKissick going over 3.5 receptions in the early game. He's hit this number in 3 consecutive games, 4 out of his last 5 and 5 out of 8 games so far this season. And 4 out of the 5 games that he has hit it, he's hit it with like a 2-catch clip. So he's getting it like mostly like 5 catches plus. I think of those 5 games, he just had 1 game at 4. So I like the upside there. Antonio Gibson, hasn't been as advertised, I think is the nice way to put it so far for this season. And I think up against that heavy, Bucs rushing defense, going to be a lot of opportunity for McKissick to catch some balls out of that backfield.
Yeah, for me, actually, my props that I really like today are actually lines and games. We'll talk about a little bit more later. But I think the 2 games I'm really watching closely are the and impacts fantasy a little bit too is going to be Denver and the Eagles in Denver. I really like the under in that game. You got 2 offenses that can score, but defenses that are a little underrated. And I think the line in that one, I think last I saw was 45.5 last night, and that I think I like the under on that. So just keep an eye on that. And then the other one I've been keeping an eye on is this Browns and Patriots game. Where 2 teams that have decent defenses. You have no Nick Chubb today, no Odell Beckham. Not like they were using Odell Beckham, but I think that could be another game that's kind of one of those grinded out games. I think the line on that one, if I remember, was 47.5 last night. But I think those are 2 games that if you're looking for some strong plays that have some stats to back it up, I think those are 2 that I've been kind of keeping an eye on.
Okay, I like it. We'll get to those games here soon. Before we get into the games, let's take a look at who is going to be out and who is expected to play this week. Who are we looking at, Emron?
Yeah, so today, it looks like DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray are not expected to play again against the Panthers. Last week, Colt McCoy and team did a great job against a better Niners team, so let's see if they can do it again. Zach Wilson also not expected to play. People are starting to wonder, is this because he's hurt or is it because they're kind of done with him already halfway through the year and they're on the Mike White train? And players that are ruled out already, Latavius Murray, and big surprise was, of course, Alvin Kamara. Damian Harris has been ruled out. Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Curtis Samuel, Jamal Williams, Chase Claypool, Nick Chubb, Julio Jones, and Chase Edmonds as well.
Pretty deep there, pretty deep. I don't know how I'm going to rebound from missing D-Hop and Kyler again. Last week I lost without Kyler. It was a 2-quarterback league, so I had to roll out just 1 quarterback because someone else I was missing as well. Someone was on a bye. I started only Ben Roethlisberger. He didn't do that bad for me, but didn't secure a victory. Same league. Now Roethlisberger's out with COVID. He would have been the backup. Kyler looks like he's going to be out, so I'm riding solo with a single quarterback. Luckily enough, the other team, my opponent, also only has one quarterback. Oddly enough, he has like 8 rostered too. Yeah, that's lucky me. Expected to play today, we have Zach Moss, Corey Davis, Chris Godwin, James Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, Keenan Allen, Rondell Moore, and Tim Patrick. So probably still want to follow their statuses into a little bit closer to their games. But those guys all look like they're good to go. We got Trey in the chat asking redraft full point PPR, DeAndre Carter versus Tampa, T.Y. Hilton versus Jacksonville, 1 point per returned. Is this T.Y.'s first game back?
No, he's been back. I think he got banged up again. I think he was back a couple weeks ago.
I'll probably just go with T.Y. It's a much better matchup up against Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think it's a much better matchup and, less to worry about with Tampa. Their defense is susceptible to big plays in the passing game, but it's just, I don't know. I think I'd worry more about Terry McLaurin in that game and not DeAndre Carter. So I'd go Hilton as well among those two.
Yeah, and I think Carter's just more likely to put up the goose egg between the two. So I would probably try to stay away from him as much as possible. All right, cool. Keep the questions coming, whether you got start sits, trades, anything you want to go over. A lot of leagues, this is the last week you can make trades, so anything you want us to grade. If you want to trade, lost a trade, or you have something cooking that you want some advice on, let us know. And always, of course, throw your starter sit questions in the chat. We're going to kick off with our quarterbacks for start or sit. We got Derek Carr versus Kirk Cousins, primetime football, Sunday night. Who are you going here with, Emron? I think I'm leaning towards Carr here.
I am as well. Derek Carr usually does well against the Chiefs, and I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Oddly enough, the Vikings, have been one of those inconsistent teams, but one of the things they have been consistent about is, as a team, they play pretty well at home. On the road, really hard to figure them out. So with them playing on the road, I'm going to ride with Derek Carr.
Yeah, I'm going with Derek Carr as well. Oddly enough, the Chargers' passing defense ranks 3rd in the league for yards allowed per game. So a little bit less upside for Kirk Cousins in that passing offense this week. A lot more upside for Dalvin Cook going up against that Chargers defense that ranks 32nd up against the run. So I think it's more of a Dalvin Cook sort of week. And Derek Carr and the Raiders are going to be fighting for that division going up against the Chiefs. They always play him really well. Higher game total, a lot more to like in that matchup, in my opinion. Trey's back in the chat asking, does it concern you that the Colts will be running the ball more often than not in this matchup? Not really. They got Jonathan Taylor, probably the best running back on the year right now in fantasy. So easy breezy, lemon squeezy. Naeem Hines has come on in the past couple weeks or so, expanding his role a little bit, earning a few more extra touches and actually doing something with them. So not worried about it at all. Next up, we've got Luisa in the chat asking, Landry, Bolden, AJ Green, Beasley for a standard league, filling on my last flex spot in a close matchup. So Jarvis, Brandon Bolden, keep in mind we got Dame Harris out, AJ Green, no Kyler Murray, and Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley starting to turn it on a little bit. I feel like I like Beasley and Landry the most. I'm just not sure how they're going to divvy up the touches in that backfield for the Patriots. You got JJ Taylor that he's put on a show a few times this season. Ramondre Stevenson, that big body, and Bolden, who kind of feels like the guy that can do a little bit of everything for them. If anything, he feels like the best fill-in for Dame Harris. So I feel like Landry and Beasley here, but I don't love the matchup for Landry up against the secondary of the Patriots, but I still think that he can have a good day. He can have a productive day for your fantasy squad. What do you think, Emron?
Yeah, I'd probably go with Beasley as well. He's just got the best matchup amongst the 4 people here. AJ Green, it's hard to figure him out as a whole, but then with no Kyler, don't like that. Bolden, you just kind of describe the Patriots backfield. You'd have no idea. It's a lottery, right? Anybody. I think Beasley, like you mentioned, has been really stepping it up the last few games, and he's got a good matchup against that Jets secondary. So I'd probably ride with Beasley among the 4.
So did you say Landry as well? Sorry.
He said he just needs 1, right? So I went with Beasley over Landry.
Oh, sorry. I thought this was a 2-part. So hell, if I got to go with 1, I guess I would agree with you. I go Beasley over Landry.
If it was PPR, I would go with Landry because I think he'll rack them up. But if I'm expecting some big plays and touchdowns, if it's a standard league, I'd feel better about Beasley.
Sure. All right. Next up in our starter sits, we've got Taylor Heineke versus Mac Jones. Heineke gets Tampa Bay. Mac Jones gets Cleveland. Which way you going?
I'm going to go with Taylor Heineke. I think the football team is going to be down, and I think they're going to be down a lot. But I think he has shown some ability to run a little bit. He's a little bit mobile, and I think he can find those plays downfield. So I think they're going to be chasing, and I think he's just going to have more opportunities.
Yeah, I'm going to go that direction as well. Pretty much everything you just said. They're going to be playing from behind. Even if he throws an interception or two, I still trust him to maybe get that back with a rushing touchdown, throw a couple of passing touchdowns. A lot of opportunity to pass on this Tampa Bay defense, not so much to run. So I do feel like the game script does a little bit more positive for Taylor Heineke rather than Mac Jones, who, they got a 41-point game total. The Browns and the Patriots, I'm going to be on the under. I think there's a little bit less offense than we would want to see in that game.
Yep.
All right, next up, we've got some running backs here. First up, Ernest Johnson versus Josh Jacobs or Mike Williams. Very good matchups for all three of these guys, on paper. But I feel like I got to ride with Ernest Johnson. This is a Cleveland Browns rushing offense that ranks second in the league. It doesn't matter who's handling the rock, whether it's Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Ernest Johnson. They've got a great offensive line, and that's really just been the blueprint for their offense so far this season and what they're best at. So I feel like Ernest Johnson is the answer here, but I feel like all three of these are good matchups. Honestly, when I went to these three, I was just like, I'm going with the guy I think can score at least 2 touchdowns or has the most likelihood to do so. So I'm going to go with Ernest Johnson.
I agree as well. Like I said, like you mentioned, the matchups are pretty good across the board. But Josh Jacobs, I always get worried about Kenyon Drake popping up randomly on a drive and stealing some touches and yards. Ernest Johnson, anytime he's gotten a chance to play, whether it was last year or this year, he's produced. He's produced well. So I think he continues that here. Mike Williams is probably going to be second on my list because I think he had some decent catches down the field last week. And the Vikings secondary is always suspect with the Chargers being at home. He'd probably be my second. So I'd go Ernest Johnson, Williams, and then Josh Jacobs.
I agree 100%. That's exactly how I would rank it. The next one up here, we've got Mark Ingram for the Saints filling in today for Alvin Kamara, going to get that starter workload. Going against the Titans, we got Darrell Williams versus the Raiders and Devonta Smith at Denver. This is a tough one. I may lean more into Darrell Williams. It doesn't sound like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get activated off the IR. I like that matchup, high point total. Haven't been able to really establish the run. Mark Ingram's got a decent matchup. Mark Ingram, actually, he's 20 yards off from being the Saints' leading rusher all time. Feel like he's going to get that today. He should get that today, so. But I don't know. Like, do you think he finds Pater? Like, they got Trevor Siemian, they've got no Kamara, they've a receiver. You got Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith. Like, I don't really trust the Saints today. This is a really tough one. I guess I lean into Darrell Williams, just leaning into that matchup, high points. We assume there should be a lot of opportunity here. Where are you at with this one?
I'm actually going to go with Mark Ingram because I think you just mentioned the reasons you mentioned with the Saints offense. There's not a lot, right? And that offense, from what you just described, he's going to take on Alvin Kamara's role. So that offense is going to go through him. He knows that team well. He knows the offense well, right? He's been there forever, even though he just came back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think that offense is going to go through him. So it's going to be a lot of opportunities. I think he's a great DFS play today as well. So I'd go with Ingram. Williams has a good matchup, but it's just the Chiefs' offense, even though it's, statistically still ranks as pretty high in the NFL. I think they're still top 3. It's kind of still hard to figure out what they're going to do when they get into the red zone. So I think Williams, he's going to be very touchdown dependent for him to give you value. I don't see them giving him 15 to 20 touches. I just don't. I think it'd be more like 10 to 15 if he's lucky. So I'd go with Ingram and then Williams because he's a back, and I think he'll have more touches. But Devonta Smith is another game I mentioned earlier that I don't think is going to be high scoring at all against the Broncos, and they do have a decent secondary. So I'd go Ingram, Williams, and then Smith.
I go Ingram, or I'm going Williams, Ingram, Smith there. I just don't trust the passing offense of the Eagles right now. Very, very inconsistent. And some weeks they just completely fade it in general. You get 3 catches for Smith, you get 5 for Goddard, and 1 to 2 for everybody else. Like it's very limited. All right, looking at some receiver-heavy options here. First up, we're looking at Marvin Jones at Indianapolis, Emmanuel Sanders at the Jets, or Alex Collins at Green Bay. So another pretty close one here. I think I just lean into the highest ceiling, and I go with the Manny Sanders at the Jets. What do you like?
Same with you. I'd go Sanders, Jones, and then Collins. The Seattle backfield. Is Chris Carson already activated for this week or not yet?
No. He's not coming back, it looks like.
Not this week, okay. But still, I don't know what that offense is going to look like. Russ's first game back, too, I think. So I'll go Sanders, Jones, and then Collins.
Yeah, I really like the Packers today with Russ coming off an injury. I mean, you have Rodgers coming back from the COVID-related situation, but seems fine, right? He took Joe Rogan's regiment. He'll be good to go, right? He'll be ready to, run in the Kentucky Derby, with whatever Joe Rogan's pumping him with. So I trust the Packers a little bit more today. So I'm going to be fading that option. Manny Sanders, like I said, just has the highest upside here. I mean, I don't know if we can trust Marvin Jones Jr. with Trevor Lawrence yet. They beat the Bills, but they put up 9. They didn't even score a touchdown. So not really a team that I trust on offense in general. We got our boy Luis back in the chat asking half-point PPR, Darrell Williams or Singletary. That's a tough one. I wish Zach Moss is out, and then I could have just given you the home run on Singletary, but with Moss coming out of concussion protocol, I still think Singletary takes the bulk of the load. So I would lean into Singletary. Both have good matchups. I feel like, they could park the bus a little bit and maybe Singletary plays less, but I don't know. I still think it's a good matchup up against the Jets, even if they're playing from ahead. What do you think for that one?
Yeah, I have to trust Devin Singletary in a league due to injury, so I'm hoping it's Singletary. But I think among the two, I think the way the matchups are going to go, I think Singletary has some more opportunities. Williams, it's just so hard to figure out that KC offense. I mean, he could end up with like 30 points today. Who knows? But I think among the two, right now, I feel better about Singletary.
Yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable with Singletary as well. He actually led the team in receptions last week with 7. So maybe a little bit more upside coming his way. I thought it was going to be like the big week for him, with Zach Moss potentially being out, but that's not the case. And for some reason, they just really love both of those guys. That both are getting plenty of touches, and no one's rising to the top there between the two. All right, next up we've got Hunter Renfro versus Kansas City, Michael Gallup versus Atlanta, or J.D. McKissic versus Tampa. Another really close one here. With Ruggs gone, I feel like Hunter Renfro just might have the safest floor of the 3. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for him in that offense. Not a ton of downfield targets, but he just cleans up in full point PPR. And this is, of course, the format that we're referring to. Michael Gallup, first game back from injury from the IR, since week 1, actually. Would like to start him. What am I talking about? I am starting him in a couple leagues, just injuries, buys, whatever. McKissic I like, but does he do a lot with the catches that he gets? Is he going to, get downfield with his receptions? I'm not sure. I trust Hunter Renfro here the most. What do you like?
I think so. I think even before the situation with the Ruggs, Renfro had carved out a role on that offense for himself, and I think it's just going up. So I'd go Renfro and McKissic's a close second, because like we talked about, the Bucs having a pretty decent run D. You can obviously pass on them, and McKissic is a receiving back, so I think there's a lot of chances for him to get some dump down, some screen work there. So I'd go run for a second, and Gallup third. Not because I love the player, I think he's a very talented player, but first game back from injury, we're halfway through the season, right? The matchup is good against the Falcons defense, but you just don't know what you're going to get yet.
Yep, agreed. So how do you rank them then? Do you go McKissic, Renfro, Gallup?
Renfro, McKissic, Gallup.
Okay, gotcha. Renfro, McKissic, Gallup. Got it. On the same page there. We got Matt in the chat. Good morning, sir. Asking, pick one for the flex. Odell, wrong. McKissic, Elijah, or Gallup. Very close to what we were just discussing here. Odell, we don't know the extent of his involvement in the playbook yet. They're talking about using him on kick returns and stuff like that. Robert Woods is out, so you would assume that there's a little bit more upside, but realistically, this is the last week to make daylight on Van Jefferson. Like, I do think it's a good Van Jefferson spot, but they don't plan to overuse Odell or really use him at all unless they absolutely need to. And that's a very risky play because that's your Monday night slot, right? So you're going to have a lot of games that happen before that you'll probably see better production on your bench, if you do start him. I think that you go McKissic here. You think Elijah Moore's a better start? I mean, we just picked McKissic over Gallup.
No, I'm going to go with McKissic. Anytime you can have a back in your flex, you got to go with that because the floor is always a little bit safer.
Right, exactly. And you have the full point PPR, so exactly that. All right, next up here, first up we've got, these are tight ends, Pat Friarmuth versus Kyle Pitts. A little bit less eventful now with Ben Roethlisberger being out. Kyle Pitts, just a home run here?
It's tough. I would say Kyle Pitts. I mean, before the Roethlisberger news, because Friarmuth's been having a really solid month. I think he's got 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games or something like that. He's been on a tear. And I think he's really solidified himself with the offense with all their injuries. But with Mason Rudolph starting today, I still don't hate Friarmuth because what does a young quarterback do or inexperienced quarterback do? They look for that big target, right? So I think I'll go with Pitts here because the Dallas secondary can be had, and Pitts is a better player. But Friarmuth, I think even with the drop off to Rudolph, I think he could still have a decent day.
Yeah, but I'm still going to lean into Kyle Pitts here. They had him ranked tight end 8, Friarmuth, and that was with Ben Roethlisberger in the lineup, and they had Pitts at 4. So I was like, wow, if Roethlisberger's in the lineup, home run for me. So
yeah,
I thought that was a good comp. Then we got Zach Ertz versus Carolina or Tyler Higbee at San Francisco on Monday night.
I'm going with Higbee with no Robert Woods, and I know it's Odell's first game, but he's still going to be learning the playbooks. I imagine they're just going to use him for like deep shots or something. So I think this is a great spot for Higbee because that's kind of where Robert Woods worked too, right? Like intermediate routes. So I'll go Higbee.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with Kyler Murray being out, much less upside for Zach Ertz. We had Matt asking in the chat, Jacoby Myers or J.D. McKissick between the two. We had picked J.D. McKissick. He said he wanted to throw Myers in there as well. You still go McKissick?
Yep, all day.
Yeah. I like Jacoby Myers this week in that league where I said, Kyler Murray's going to be out and Roethlisberger's out. So my second quarterback slot's open. Jacoby Myers is starting in that one. So we'll see what we get. Don't feel great about it because of the matchup. You're probably going to see a lot of Denzel Ward today. All right, we are jumping into our game previews here, but please, guys, keep firing the questions away, whether you got starter sits, trade questions, whatever it is, let us know. We're here to go over it. But we're going to jump into our our game previews here while we're live. Just give me a second to get them pulled up here. First up, we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to the Indianapolis Colts, coming in as road dogs, plus 10.5 on the spread, plus 360 on the money line. And the total in this game is at 47.5 points. What do you like here, boss?
I like the Jags. I think the Jags are going to cover again, and like the under in this game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. Colts offense is Jonathan Taylor. Not really going to go down the field much. So I think the Jags will cover the number, and we'll see the spread get covered as well by the Jags. But I think the Colts will win outright.
What if we see that same front heavy group out of the Jags this week? I mean, they were able to plug the run and just completely take away the offensive line of the Bills last week. Are you expecting something similar? Or are they going to kind of revert? Okay,
absolutely, because Colts probably have along with the Browns maybe the best line in football. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to attack that. I mean, I think Jonathan Taylor will still get his, but they're going to really force Carson Wentz to step up and make some plays, and that's usually not a good recipe.
Yeah, I really don't love this spread. I've been getting burned on the double-digit spreads the past couple of weeks, and I always tell people to stay away from them. And there I go. I was like, Cowboys -10. This isn't bad. Oh, Bengals -10. This isn't bad. No. Yeah. Back-to-back weeks getting burned on those 10s. So I'm going to stay away from the spread. I like the under 47.5 here. Obviously, the books aren't giving us the best value on the money line. I'm looking at -450 for the Colts at home. So obviously no love there. I like the under 47.5. I don't think the Jaguars will do their part in this one. And the Colts, could get up. We saw them in a similar situation up against the Jets last week where I actually did hit a 10-point spread. They won by 15, but the Jets were making it really close there at the end of the game. I'm going to say that doesn't happen. The Jaguars don't cash in garbage time, and we go under the 47.5. Give me like a 31-10, something like that. All right, next up, we've got the Cleveland Browns traveling to the Patriots. Just a 1-point spread here. Cleveland Browns coming in as road dogs, +1 on the spread, +114 on the money line. Over-under is up to 45 points now. I feel like that one was at 41 early this morning. I wonder if something happened there. Patriots are undefeated at home. Mac Jones has been looking good. Cleveland Browns are struggling a little bit. They've obviously moved on from Odell. We're going to be missing Nick Chubb today, but they still have that elite defense. Which direction are you going here, Emron?
Going with the Browns. I think the Browns got this on lock. The Patriots, I think, are surprising some of us, and they're an above-average team, and Mac Jones has been pretty decent, honestly, for a rookie. But I think the Browns are a better team, and I think the Browns are going to have just be in a better spot, right? Coming off of getting rid of Odell, getting rid of that locker room headache, and I think it's just going to be a morale boost. So I think it'll be a close game and a low-scoring game here because two decent defenses. Give me the Browns to I guess cover the 1-point spread, but I'd take them outright and go with the under.
Yeah, I would just stay away from the spread and just take the money line at +114. You're getting the Browns, who are looking really good right now, coming off a win themselves, and I like the under 45 total. I think that's probably the best bet here. Patriots, like I said, they've been playing well at home, undefeated there. Mac Jones been looking really good. All the Mac Jones love, I appreciate it, but he still wasn't a top five quarterback in my opinion. I don't think that he would have the same success with any of the other teams that we're looking at quarterback, whether it was the 49ers, whether it was the Jets, the Bears, with Fields. I don't think he would have performed well in those systems. Seems like a great match for Bill and the Patriots. So been looking good, but still riding with the Browns today. Give me the Browns on the plus money and the under 45 points. All right, next up, we've got the Falcons at the Cowboys. Falcons coming in as road dogs, +8 on the spread, +320 on the money line. Over-under is at 54.5 here. That's a really big number. I think I like the Falcons to cover the 8. Cowboys, though, very good up against the spread. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons to cover as well. I think Dallas is going to be a little bit heightened alert from what happened with Denver. But Denver also has a much better defense than Atlanta, so Atlanta can't really mimic everything that Denver did. Atlanta's offense has been okay. But I think they can keep this game close. They beat the Saints last week themselves. They also had an upset last week, right? So give me the Falcons to cover the 8. I will go with the under here. I think 54.5 is a lot for these two teams. I think I would have loved it if it was around 50, 51, but 54.5 is a lot. I think that I totally see this game being like 27-20, 27-24. At 54.5, I think the Dallas would have to go off for us to get there. Like they would need to get to the 30-35 range to carry that, because I don't think the Falcons offense can do that. But give me the +8 for the Falcons, Cowboys to win outright, and then the under 54.5.
Yeah, 1,000% agree with you. The Falcons' passing offense is pretty good. They rank 12th in the league for yards gained per game, and they rank 13th for yards against per game. So they actually have a little bit more upside up against this Dallas Cowboys passing offense that ranks, pretty high, 4th in the league in passing yards per game. So, but I still like the Falcons a lot. They've been playing very gritty. They've been solid on defense, actually. Like I said, 13th up against the pass, 24th up against the run, but recently they've been looking pretty good. I think they'll plug up the alleys up against Zeke and that rushing offense and really force Dak to go vertical down the field. So yeah, give me the Falcons to cover the 8 as well. Cowboys to win in the under 54.5. Next up, we've got the Bills at the Jets. Big spread here. We got the Bills coming in as road favorites, -13 on the spread, -615 on the money line, and the total is at 47.5 points. Last week, the Jets, they started coming back up against the Colts. It really pushed the number. We went over the total. Can they do it again this week, or they're going to be playing stinker? They're playing at home, Jets.
Yeah, what's the total again in the game?
47.5.
It is 47.5. I can't remember if there was a hook or not. So for this one, I am going to go with the Jets to cover. I don't know why the books are still giving the Bills. I guess they're on the road, right? They're down the street. They're still in New York, but still, right. I mean, after what they did last week, right? They didn't score a touchdown last week against the Jags on the road. And this is the thing with the Bills too. Like they were a Super Bowl favorite, but if you look at their schedule and who they've beaten and who they lost to, it's not impressive at all. It's kind of concerning. Yeah. So give me the Jets to cover. Hopefully Mike White can finish out the game. Like you mentioned last week, they were double-digit underdogs. They would have covered. They were about 5 yards away from covering last week if they had scored. So I'm going to give the Jets to cover. I'm going to go with the under again here. The Jets defense is not the best, but it's around average. I'd say it's okay. It's not as bad as you think it is. I think the Bills need to step up. I think they'll win, but I think they'll win maybe, I don't know. We said 47.5, right? I'll make it really interesting. I'll say 27-20 that the Bills will win. So we still cash our under.
Yeah, I'm going to bet this one live. I mean, I'll get into the Bills if I can get them at like -10, if I can get some movement on that line. But I don't want to mess with this. The Jets, interesting that they were that close to covering last week with Mike White in just the first half of the first quarter. Yeah. So he was looking good. He was off to a good start, but the Bills defense is still one of the best in the league. Like when you look at the numbers, first up against the pass, fourth up against the run, and the Jets, they rank 32nd in the league for points allowed per game. They rank 29th up against the pass, 27th up against the run. Which Jets team are we going to, buy in on? Like, are they going to revert to pre-Mike White, or are they going to be, this team that has, just kind of that felt like they've turned the page with Mike White. Honestly, even with Johnson in the lineup, I felt like they were, looking better than they were with Zach Wilson.
As long as it's not Wilson.
Yeah, right. I mean, gun to my head, I guess I'll take the Jets to cover the 13, but I would rather bet this one live. I feel most comfortable with the under 47.5. I just feel like the Jets still aren't going to play their part to put points on the board here. You're looking at the Jaguars that, they did beat the Bills last week, but they only scored 9 points and they didn't score a touchdown. You know what I mean? So the defense was still doing their job. If they hold any team to 9 points, the offense should win them the game, right? So I do think the Jets will cover that, but safest pick here is the under. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I totally agree with you, but the Jets have a better defense, in my opinion, than the Jags. And so I get a little bit worried when, they struggled. But, we'll see. I think, last week might have just been the week of the clunkers. But, I think, this is going to be an intriguing one to watch because the Bills are one team we were all high on. But when you really dig into their schedule, and it's really concerning, they don't really show up. Last week, they didn't even show up against a shitty Jags team, right? So it's really, I want to see how they come out today.
Well, I like the Jags rushing defense a lot more than the Jets rushing defense. And realistically, that's where the whole game starts, right, is on the ground. Like, are we going to establish the run or do we have to lean into a one-dimensional offense? And I think that the Bills this week don't have to go one-dimensional. I think that they're going to be able to run. They're going to be able to have efficiency passing as well downfield. That cover 2 shell that everyone was talking about with the Jags last week, realistically, if you watch some of the tape, it just comes from the upfront pressure, right? And I feel like there's going to be a little bit less of that this week. Williams brothers, they've been nice for the Jets up front. It's a nice little story, but they haven't been as consistent as, say, like the Jaguars from last week. All right, next up, we've got the Saints and the Titans. I really like the Titans here. I feel like the spread should be bigger. The Titans just beat the Rams, and that was on the road, right?
Yeah, and this was one of the games I picked, I think I was going with the Saints in an upset because I think the Saints, I don't think it was one of my best bets. I just had a gut feeling about this one. Coming into this game, I think the Saints this year, when they were underdogs against the spread, they were 3-0, and actually every single time they won outright. But today, that was before they lost Kamara. And that, I think, that's one I get really concerned about. I think they were 2.5-point underdogs when I was looking at the article and writing it this week. I don't know what it's at now. What is it at, like 3, 4?
It's at 3 flat, yeah. And actually, so we got Saints coming in as road dogs, +3 on the spread, +132 on the money line. Total is at 43.5. The Titans to cover the 3 is paying +100.
Yeah,
they're favored on the money line, -152. It's interesting.
Yeah, and that's what's tricky to me. Like, I think Sean Payton's a fantastic coach, but no matter how good of a coach you are, you need somebody. You need players, right? And this now you don't even have Alvin Kamara. So I think I'll go with the Titans on the under. I'm just kind of, I don't know how many points the Trevor Siemian-led offense can score.
Right. Yeah, and like we said, with no Kamara, going to have to lean into Mark Ingram or Marquez Callaway or Traquan Smith. Like, who's going to be the guy moving the needle here for the Saints? I love the Titans at the -3. I love them on the money line. Honestly, I stay away from the total because I don't know what the Saints are going to do. You know what I mean? Like, what if we have a Taysom Hill game? You know what I mean? What if Taysom Hill comes in and starts doing Taysom Hill things, catching balls downfield, running the wildcat, trick plays, you know what I mean? So I'm going to stay away from that. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to stay away from the total of 43.5. Give me the Titans here, no matter how much Taysom Hill they use. I mean, he's not, he's not Alvin Kamara, right? He's not Michael Thomas, he's not going to be that guy. But I think that he could, still keep the Saints afloat. Maybe they go over the total, but I'll stay away from that. Give me the Titans to cover and win outright. All right, next up, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in as road favorites into D.C. to visit the Washington football team. -10 on the spread in favor of the Bucs, -470 on the money line. Over/under is at 50.5. That's also a tall number. I know that we were talking up Taylor Heineke there, but I kind of like the under there. What do you think? What do you like here?
I like the over, actually. I think the Bucs can score on this Redskins defense, which isn't very good. Bucs secondary, if you're throwing on them, isn't that great either. And I think I'm going to have the football team covering. So I have the Bucs winning, the football team covering, and I think covering late. I think they'll be down like maybe 17 or something, and they'll go for 2 or I don't know. It'll be like a really late game cover. And the score will look closer than it actually is. But, anytime it's a 2-possession underdog at home, I like to take them. And I think the under is in play here because I think the football team has a sneaky offense where I think they can probably get to 20 if the Bucs can get to 30.
Okay. I could see that. I guess I trust the football team to get to the 20 a little bit less. I would probably put them at like 17-18 on the game, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's just tough. I don't know how they're going to get things going on the ground if they're just going to try to throw a lot on them. That would be my recommendation, is really try to spread things out on them so you can limit the pass rush a little bit. And with a running quarterback like Heineke, a guy that can move his legs back there, he can buy himself that little bit of extra time.
Yep.
All right, next up, we've got the Lions and the Steelers. Let's see. We got a question in the chat. Full point PPR, Mark Ingram or Ayuk? Ooh, that's a tough one.
I'm going with Ingram.
Pretty good the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
On the end zone last week.
He has been, but I mean, it's like we said earlier, starting running back in the flex, I'm always going to lean to that. The floor is a little bit lower, and Ayuk has looked better, but I still don't forget about the beginning of the year where he was missing. So it looks like he's trending upwards, but I think Ingram, taking over for Kamara this week, I think you have a really good opportunity this week to get some points from him.
Okay. I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to go Ayuk. He's been playing better the past couple of weeks, and I just feel like they're going to need him in a game where they're probably playing from behind on the Rams.
Okay.
All right. So, sorry, lost my spot here. We got Lions and Steelers. Not a great game. The spread is down to 5 points. So you got it at 8 yesterday. Is that right?
Yep. For the Lions, 8.5 yesterday.
Yeah. So it's moved all the way down to 5. It was 6.5 this morning when I got up early, about 5:30 in the morning. They're plus 195 on the money line. Total's at 40 points here. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Mason Rudolph is stinking bad. But can Jared Goff handle this Steelers defense? I mean, this is also a Steelers team that just loves to play down to their opponents. I mean, the Lions are 0-8. Is this the spot?
Yep. I would not be surprised if this is the game the Lions could pull out. I mean, like I said, the reason that number keeps going down is people aren't respecting the Steelers, right? Getting 5. You think in the past they would, but I think everybody saw the game on Monday. That team is not your typical Steelers team, right? They have a ton of injuries too. Ben, Chase Claypool, Juju's already out, right? So It's really just the Najee and Deontay Johnson show with Mason Rudolph now. And the Lions, I just think back to a couple of weeks when they played the Rams, right? They played Matt Rams and Matthew Stafford. They treated that game like their Super Bowl. They pulled out all the stops, man. They were doing outside kicks, going for 4th, fake punts. If they do something like that today where they just go, Dan Campbell's like, fuck it, this is our chance to win. Let's just go all out. They can win this game. They can win this game.
Sure. I mean, is that the Detroit Lions that are going to show up, though? Because after that game in L.A., they came back home, and I think they got shut out at home by the Eagles.
40-6, yeah. It was pretty bad.
2 field goals, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they are a bad football team. They're not a good football team. You're right. Absolutely right. But I think this is the one where, the Steelers, if you look at their winning streak, I think they're at 4 or 5 in a row now. They haven't really beaten anybody great, right? They beat the Seattle Seahawks without Russ. They beat they did beat the Browns, which was decent. They beat they beat another trash team. I can't remember. And they beat the Bears on Monday as well. But I mean, they're not really beating world beaters. And Mason Rudolph, anytime we've seen him play, he's left a lot to be desired. I don't know why this is going to be different. I'll take the Lions in the +5. I really would not be shocked if they win it, but I'd like the under here as well.
Yeah, I'll take the Lions. I mean, I'd like to get back a couple of points for the Lions. I'd like to, be at that 6 or 7 spot. But yeah, 5's pretty good. But honestly, I feel like if you're going to trust the Lions today to cover like a 5-point game, like just bet them on the money line. Just take the +195, creep it in on close to +200. If you trust them, Go all in.
It's falling down actually. Like last night, I had it. I have them in a smaller parlay. Last week was the first weekend where I didn't do my long shot parlay, and I missed out because it was the week of the underdog. So I have them and the Jets, and who else is it? I think maybe the Falcons and like a $5 one to win like $1,000.
Ooh.
I mean, it's all underdogs to win outright. I mean, worst case, I lose $5. Second case, I'm talking next Sunday about, I won $1,000 because all these underdogs won again.
Take it to the Hizzy, bitches.
Yeah.
We got Delusional Tanner in the chat. Van Jefferson or Jerry Judy, half-point PPR. Go and Jerry. So it's Jerry's world.
Yeah, I would go Jerry Judy. Van Jefferson, I really just don't know what that offense is going to look like without Robert Woods now. Like you mentioned earlier, this could be a Van Jefferson, like the last Van Jefferson game where he could get some targets, or they might just go balls to the wall and Odell out of the break.
I can't, like, what are they going to set up for him? Like a couple of screens? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's Sean McVay. He's the best.
Run down the sideline, son.
I think exactly that. I think you could see some screens, some slants, I don't think it's going to be anything intricate. I think it's going to be exactly that, like some down the field 9 routes, some slants, some screens, just to get him involved.
Stafford still got to hit them. They got to have some chemistry. You know what I mean? Like they are getting to know each other's timing and whatnot, right? So I don't know. Yeah. I don't trust it. I do think Van Jefferson will have a better production night over Odell Beckham, but you still could see him on the field. He may even, I guess he could technically out-snap Van Jefferson, but I would expect Van Jefferson to have more production. But I still think that he doesn't play a lot. That's just where I'm at with it. All over Jerry Judy there, all over him. Sorry about Mike Gesicki and the goose egg. Happened to me too. Happens to us all. No big deal.
I think he led the team in targets too.
We will recover, I promise.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, trying to skip the Vikings and Chargers. Next up, we got Vikings at the Chargers coming in as road dogs, +3 on the spread, +153 on the money line. Over under is at 53.5 points. I like the Chargers here. They've been playing well at home. Defense is solid, other than the rushing defense, but I still trust them more. I won with the Vikings on a cover last week on the 7, but we're down to 3 here. I don't trust them on the road. Give me the Chargers, just straight up, keeping it simple.
Yep, like I mentioned earlier, the Vikings don't really show up on the road. They're really inconsistent. We saw last week they started out great against the Ravens. What happened? And they fell apart, right? I'm going to take the Chargers here at the -3. And can you give me the points total one more time, please?
53.5. I like the under.
Yeah, it stayed pretty consistent throughout the week. I think it was around that number when I wrote.
Chargers 3-5 to the over so far this season. Minnesota 4.
I'll take the under. I think Minnesota is going to be the one that holds us back from hitting the over. I think they'll get capped at maybe like 2023 but I think the Chargers could hit it.
Yeah, I agree. Minnesota also 1-3 on the road this year, so a little bit less upside for them playing at the Chargers today. All right, next up we've got the Seahawks and the Packers. This is another one where I just really love the home team. Give me the spread is at 3.5 points. You got the Seahawks at +148 on the money line. Over under is at 49.5. Just give me the Packers straight up, keeping it simple here. Still think that they're the better team, better defense. Seattle bleeds yards in the air, on the ground. It's Russ's game first back. It's not enough for me. Not enough. If they had Chris Carson and everybody at full health, might lean on the Seahawks to cover. But I think the Packers do cover here as well. They are 8-1. I'm sorry, ATS this season. That may be best in the NFL.
Yeah, it's either them or Dallas.
Dallas is at 7-1, so just one extra.
Yeah. But I think, I'll go with the Packers as well. When I was writing my article earlier in the week, I don't know who's going to be quarterback for both teams, actually, because they had to make these decisions until recently. But, yeah, give me Rodgers at home. He's been fine. Russ's first game back. I think it'll be close, but I think the Packers would cover the 3.5. It's not a lot, and give me the under.
Yep, exactly. I forgot to add the Panthers and the Cardinals into the bottom line, so we're just going to go over this one verbally. Panthers going into Arizona, 9-point spread. Carolina, road dogs, +350 on the money line. Over under is at 43 points. Cardinals favored -430 on the money line with a 9-point spread without Kyler and D-Hop. I don't know. I mean, we got PJ Walker at quarterback for the Panthers. Obviously, not very good, but we still got CMC in this game. I don't know. I feel like the Panthers can cover that 9. Maybe just buy it up to 10. What do you think?
Yeah, but I would bet up to 10 if you want to go with the Panthers. I think last week what we talked about earlier was that the Kyler Murray less and the Hopkins less Cardinals, right? Again, we got to give Cliff Kingsbury a little bit of credit for being a good coach. They beat a better Niners team. I think the Niners are a better team than the Panthers are, right? And they're division rivals. They know each other. If Cam was playing, I'd be kind of intrigued, and I'd say maybe there's a little bit of juice for the Panthers this week. A little bit extra, but with PJ Walker, I don't really like it. If I have to pick the spread, I will go with the Cardinals at home because their defense is a really hellacious and tenacious defense, right? They get after the quarterback, they force turnovers, and I think PJ Walker is going to be throwing a few. If it's at 9, give me the Cardinals, and I'll go with the point total being the under because I just don't trust PJ Walker at all. I think CMC is great, and so is DJ Moore, right? But they're going to be limited by the quarterback play.
I agree. All right, let's move on to the chat here a little bit, and then we'll come back to the games. We got Wesley asking Jerry Judy versus Mark Ingram. I'm going Jerry Judy there.
I'm going Ingram.
Fair enough. And Emron said as much already. Leans towards the running back at the last flex spot. Let's see. Lost Tulio and Woods this week. Got T.Y., Agnew, Pascal, Tim Patrick. I'm going Agnew and Tim Patrick. They've both played well recently. I like them both significantly more over T.Y. and Pascal.
I agree. Tim Patrick's like that forgotten guy, right? Arguably the most productive receiver the Broncos have, but he always gets forgotten after Fant, Sutton, and Judy. Yep. But yeah, give me Patrick and Agnew.
Yep. And then we got McBride in the chat asking one for full point PPR, Friarmuth, Marvin Jones, AJ Green. I'll go Marvin Jones just because I feel like he has the highest ceiling.
Yeah, I will too. If Ben was playing, I'd go Friarmuth, but again, Rudolph, I don't like him, so I'll go with the best player of the 3 in Jones.
Yep, I agree with you. If Ben was playing, it would definitely be Friarmuth. That would be the pick. And then we got Shia asking Ayuk, Jerry, or Sanders. Pick 2. I like Ayuk, but I'm going Judy and Sanders.
I'll do the same.
Better matchups, higher ceiling. Keeping it simple. All right, back to the game picking here. We have who's next up because I missed the Cardinals and their opponent. Eagles and Broncos. Speak of the devil. We've got the Eagles coming in as road dogs. Where's that spread? Plus 1.5. Should be more.
Yeah,
plus 107 on the money line. Over-unders at 45.5 points. Another one where I just like the home team. Minus 127 for the Broncos. Give me them on the money line. Keeping it simple. Staying away from the total. I have good odds here. Much better team on offense and defense. Crooked numbers.
Yeah, it's a weird spread indeed, but I'm going with the Broncos and the under. I really love the under in this game. Both defenses are sneaky good. Broncos not so much with Fangio running the show and some of the playmakers they have, but I like the Broncos and the under here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that the Eagles are going to do their part. They try to be too much of a one-dimensional offense with their running attack, and I just don't think that that's going to be the meal ticket to go over the top on the Broncos this week. So give me the Broncos straight up. No spread for me. No total for me. No thanks. All right, last one up here. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Raiders in primetime Sunday night football. Chiefs coming in as road favorites, minus 2.5 on the spread, minus 145 in the money line. Over under is at 52 points. I like the over, and call me nuts, but I'm taking the Raiders.
Same. I like the Raiders. I'll take the 2.5 and the money line. I think I picked the Chiefs this week, but I don't know what it is about this game. I could be wrong, but the Raiders always play them tough, and I don't know.
Yep.
Raiders have been dealing with a lot this month, and they've actually handled it pretty well, in my opinion. They've won a couple of games too, but I like the over here, and I think the Raiders will cover, and I think they might actually win.
They are fighting for the division lead. So you got the Chargers with the Vikings. Sounds like we're both picking the Chargers, but they could beat Kansas City and go over the top of this division. You know, if the Vikings can play spoiler and they can take care of business at home against the Chiefs. To me, it's the biggest factor here is the home field too. Like if they were playing this one on the road, I'd probably lean towards the Chiefs that are trying to really figure out, be aggressive, play solid in front of that home crowd. But I'm gonna go with the Raiders here. They seem to figure it out. They seem to always find a way. They have pulled the Rams and the Niners off the board here. I had a 3.5 point spread. Not sure what the total is. I just take the Rams probably straight up, probably on the money line, whatever that value is. 49ers are playing at home, so you get a little bit better value out of the Rams. I'm assuming that those injuries probably play a role into the total as well, or the number. So just keeping it simple. I'll take the Rams at -3. I buy it down.
That's what I did as well. Just take the Rams to cover. The Niners are getting exposed, right? Kyle Shanahan was everybody's love child. Like, he's so great. He's not. He's a good offensive coordinator. He's not a good head coach. That game last week was the best description. They should have won that game. With the three best players, if you count J.J. Watt, too, for the Cardinals out last week. McVay's awesome. Rams are going to win this one. I think they might win it big.
Yeah, I don't know about big, but I'll take them to cover the 3. Again, I don't have a total here. Let's say it's at 45.5. You take the over?
Give me a second. Let me see if it's still at FanDuel. What number did you say?
I said 45. I'm just throwing a number out there. It's my own number.
45. I would take the over. Let me just see what the book has it at. The book has it at. Yep, it's still on FanDuel. It's still 3.5. Over under is 49.5. I'll go with the under there.
I'll take under 49.5.
Yeah, I'll take under 49.5. Still got we'll use them as a reference for this one. Rams are 3.5 on the road, 3.5 favorites on the road, -180 on the money line. The Niners are +152 on the money line.
Yeah, so I take Rams -3. I take under 49.5. And what was the money line? I'm sorry?
-180 for the Rams.
That's the pick. Anything under -200, I'm clean with it. I'll work it into something else. I'll make money on it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good value. My pair for this game would probably just be the Rams and the under.
Yep, I like it. All right, cool. Well, if no one else has any last start or sit questions, that's all we have. We'll sit tight for a second here. What do you think about this expansion team talk? St. Louis, Toronto, London.
I haven't even heard about that, actually. I must have missed this.
They're saying to accommodate the 18-game schedule, it would be better to get an expansion team going.
Then you have 33 teams then, and that's a weird number. I wonder if they would do more than one.
Helps with the double bye weeks.
Yeah, it's true. But I guess, in markets, you said Toronto. I don't know if the NFL is ready for an international team yet, because I know last year in the NBA, the COVID stuff really screwed up the Raptors. I think they had to play in Orlando the whole year or something like that.
They did. They did.
Yeah, and so I don't think so. But I mean, because there's a lot of other cities in the states that don't have a team, right? I feel like St. Louis deserves a team. I think personally, in my opinion, putting the Chargers in LA was absolutely stupid. If you're already taking the Rams there, they should have just stayed in San Diego. There's no reason to move them and the Rams. I mean, the NFL
they had no support. They're playing I don't know how many home games without selling out in a row. That to me, that was the biggest thing that that got them out of the city was they didn't have interested fans. They couldn't sell out games. If you can't sell out games, when your team's good, what are you doing, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
San Antonio was also brought up on the list. So like San Antonio.
Texas already has 2 teams though. That doesn't make sense. That's a Cowboys town.
What, San Antonio?
No, I think Texas as a whole, the state. I feel like it's going to be.
It's Texas. I think they could have another football team. It's Texas.
3 teams?
Florida has 3 teams.
I know. I think that's a mistake too.
Well, they got them. When you just look at places, where football's big, like football's still really huge in Florida and super big in Texas. I don't see why not, to be honest. It's a huge market.
Yeah.
St. Louis is interesting because they got they got snagged from LA, the Rams.
Yeah, I think that one makes some sense to me.
I think I like Toronto the most out of the ones that were listed. I think it would be nice to just kind of build the Canadian brand a little bit more. They have Canadian Football League, it's not like they're completely itching for extra football. But I don't know. I feel like it would be good to build the brand up north.
Yeah, and I know for a while I don't think it's going to happen anymore. But there used to be rumors about the Bills potentially going to Toronto because they play so close to it, anyways. There was a stretch I think in the early 2010s. It's not going to happen now because they're really good. But in the early
don't do that to Bills fans. Don't.
No, that one. I don't think it'll happen now because they're good. When they were not good in the early 2010s, it was talked about a lot. But I think they also have the they played there before, but so it's not like it's terrible. It's not like they're going over the pond. I think over the pond, like somebody playing in London, I don't think their NFL's ready for that. And I don't think that should happen anytime soon.
No, I don't want to see that either. We don't need the early morning games every single Sunday. It would be driving us nuts on our picks and all that stuff. And I just don't think it makes a good product.
Toronto, or what about Mexico?
I don't know. Where do you post up in Mexico?
Mexico City. They played games there in the past. I like the international expansion. I think that makes sense, but I think starting off small with Canada and Mexico, I think makes a lot of sense. In terms of the states internally, inside the U.S., if I'm thinking off the top of my head, I think St. Louis makes a lot of sense because there's a really good football market there.
We already got Vegas now, so that take Vegas that off the table, I think.
Yeah, Vegas is covered. Miami's covered. New York's covered. Chicago, the big cities are covered. The other one that was talked about a while ago. I think this was an internal rumor locally, but maybe like a second team in Chicago. I didn't like it, but I could kind of see it. I think you look at the big cities, right? Like New York's got technically 3 football teams. We count the Bills; they're in the state. LA's got 2 teams. Miami has 1 team, but there's 3 teams in Florida, right? I don't think that would work. I think that town's too tied to the Bears. But I think the other thing is, no other big cities really come to mind to me that don't have a representation, right? Nashville's covered, right? Tennessee's covered,
right?
Boston's covered. Like all the big teams are covered. So I think you might be looking at a place like you mentioned with San Antonio. You might be looking at like not necessarily a state, but like a city to kind of pick up. So I'd be curious to see what they do.
Yeah, I could see
maybe South Carolina, Virginia.
Yeah, that's where I was going at. It was just because I was like, how far away is the Panthers Stadium? I was trying to think of where they're actually at. I think they're actually in Charlotte.
They are, yeah.
So it would be really close in South Carolina. I would probably say no to South Carolina, but we already have 2 here in the DMV, so that's out.
What about
New
Virginia?
York's got plenty. Jersey's got plenty.
Because Virginia's a big
Chicago,
state.
I just don't think would work. Like I don't think the city would just. I don't think they would gel with a second team. It's not like a situation where it would turn into like Sox Cubs or something like that,
Yeah, but I wonder. Because they have the stuff going on right now with the stadium. Where the city's a little bit pissy because they're going to be leaving Soldier Field probably in the next 5-6 years to another stadium in Arlington. I wonder if they would, whoever the new team would be, would get they would try to take Soldier. But I think that's way far ahead.
No, I think if that was the case, the second new stadium would serve as a location for both teams, similar to like Jets and Giants.
LA, yeah,
right, yeah. I mean, honestly, if there's a city to do that, I think it would be with the Cardinals and Phoenix, because they have a huge facility that could definitely act as a dual facility for two teams.
Yeah, that's another spot. Yeah.
But I think those ones that we mentioned already are decent enough without doubling down on a city, kind of reverting market share or anything like that. Because anytime you get a second team in the city, you're going to have to start splitting up, TV views, tickets, attendance and merchandise and all that. And that team that's already been there probably not going to be okay with that. Probably not going to be okay with that. But
not at all.
All right. We don't have any other questions or anything, so that's a wrap for this week. We will be back tomorrow night for our Monday Night Football preview. We'll be back Tuesday with hockey, Friday with basketball. Come kick it with us. We'll give you guys the picks, all the magic. Anything to add before we head out, boss?
Nothing, man. Best of luck to everybody's teams and their tickets on Sunday, and have a good one.
Yep. Take care. Be well. Be good. You can't be good. Be good at it. We'll see you later.